Welcome back. Step into the circle of light. It is the only safe place left. We are obsessed with the stars, aren't we? We build massive telescopes to see billions of light years away. We send rovers to Mars just to look for red dust and dead rocks. But have you ever stopped to ask yourself why? Why are we so desperate to leave this planet? Maybe it isn't about exploration at all. Maybe it is about escape. There is a specific date that is whispered in the darkest corners of the intelligence community. A year when the entire trajectory of human history changed. 1978. Before that year, NASA wasn't just looking up, they were looking down. They were obsessed with the oceans. They knew that the real final frontier wasn't space, it was the abyss right here on Earth. They launched a mission called Seasat. It was the most advanced oceanographic satellite ever built by human hands. It was designed to strip away the water and show us the topography of the deep. And then abruptly it went dark. 100 days, that is all it lasted. The official story: a massive electrical short, a catastrophic failure of the slip rings. They shut down the program, they scrubbed the public data, and NASA turned its eyes permanently toward the sky. They never went back. Not really, but here is the question that keeps me awake at night. Did Seasat actually fail, or did it work too well? Imagine for a moment that the satellite didn't break. Imagine it turned on its sensors, penetrated the deep blue veil, and saw something moving in the trenches. Something massive, something that should not exist. They stopped exploring the ocean in 1978, not because they ran out of money, but because they were scared to death of what looked back at them. Let me tell you what they found. We need to talk about what happened in the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in the summer of 1978. You have to understand the mood at the time. We were arrogant. We thought we had conquered gravity, so naturally, we assumed we could conquer pressure. The Seasat satellite was equipped with a synthetic aperture radar. This wasn't a camera taking pictures of waves. This was a machine designed to pierce through clouds, through storms, and read the texture of the ocean surface with impossible precision. It worked by bouncing microwave pulses off the water. By measuring the return time, it could map the hills and valleys of the ocean floor, because the water actually bulges slightly over underwater mountains. For the first 90 days, the data was boring. It was exactly what geology textbooks said it should be. Static ridges, silent trenches, dead rock. But on the 91st day, something changed in the South Pacific, near Point Nemo, the point on Earth farthest from any landmass, the loneliest place on the planet. The telemetry didn't show a mountain range, it showed a disturbance. Imagine a mountain range that decides to move. The technicians thought it was a glitch. They recalibrated the sensors. They blamed the atmospheric interference. But the data remained. There was a mass, roughly the size of the state of Rhode Island, moving at a depth of 4,000 meters. Do you understand the physics of that? At that depth, the pressure is crushing. It is like having an elephant stand on every square inch of your body. Nothing that large should be able to move with that kind of speed. Biology, as we understand it, has limits. Whales need to surface. Squids, even the colossal ones, have soft bodies that would be pulverized if they tried to move that fast against that kind of drag. But this thing was solid, and it was generating heat. The thermal sensors on Seasat picked up a bloom of temperature that shouldn't exist in the freezing abyss. The ocean floor is supposed to be near freezing. This anomaly was radiating heat like a biological engine. This is where the story gets darker. This is where the files get redacted. We have always assumed that the bloop, that famous underwater sound recorded years later, was an icequake. That is the comforting lie they tell you on the Discovery channels. But if you overlay the coordinates of the 1978 Seasat anomaly with the triangulation of those ultra-low frequency sounds, they match. The sound wasn't ice cracking, it was a voice. We are talking about a creature that operates on a geological timescale. A living thing that doesn't just swim, it migrates across the entire globe, hidden beneath the layer of darkness where light can never touch. Think about the old maps. The ones drawn by sailors who were terrified of the edge of the world. They drew dragons in the corners. They wrote, "Here, there be monsters." We laughed at them. We called it superstition. We called it folklore. But what if they saw something surfacing? What if once every few thousand years, one of these things comes up for air? There is a concept in zoology called abyssal gigantism. Creatures get bigger the deeper you go. Spiders, crustaceans, worms, they grow to nightmare proportions in the dark. So why do we assume the food chain stops at the giant squid? Why do we assume there isn't an apex predator that feeds on the things that feed on the squid? The Seasat data suggested that the ocean floor isn't actually the floor. In some places, what we think is the seabed is actually a carpet of organic matter, a sleeping layer. When NASA realized what they were looking at, the panic set in. You have to realize, the Cold War was in full swing. If this was a Russian submarine, it was technology that was centuries ahead of the US. If it was natural, it meant that our understanding of biology was fundamentally broken. There is a classified transcript from a meeting in July 1978. A senior analyst is quoted as saying, "We are looking for Soviet subs, and we found the Leviathan." He wasn't speaking metaphorically. He was referencing the Book of Job. Can you pull in Leviathan with a fishhook? Any hope of subduing him is false. The mere sight of him is overpowering. They realized that if the public knew that the ocean wasn't just water and rock, but a tank filled with things that could swallow a naval carrier whole, there would be chaos. We are a species that needs to feel in control. We need to be the masters of our domain. Discovering that we are essentially ants floating on the surface of a pond, explicitly designed for much larger things, that breaks the human psyche. So they pulled the plug. They claimed the satellite short-circuited. A massive electrical failure. A convenient excuse to shut down the live feed. But they didn't stop watching. They just stopped telling you about it. They moved the budget. They took the money meant for the ocean and poured it into the space shuttle program. They told us to look at the stars, to dream of Mars, to worry about asteroids. They pointed our eyes up so we wouldn't look down, because if you look down, you might notice that the abyss is looking back. And the scariest part, the Seasat data showed that the anomaly wasn't alone. It showed 3 distinct heat signatures, one in the Pacific, one in the Atlantic, and one under the ice of Antarctica. They are waking up. We have seen the reports of whales beaching themselves in record numbers. We have seen the patterns of sharks migrating to places they shouldn't be. The animals know. They are fleeing the deep water. They are terrified of what is moving in the dark. And we are just sitting here on the surface, building our little sandcastles, completely unaware that the tide is about to turn. NASA didn't leave the ocean because it was boring. They left because they realized it was occupied. We like to think of Earth as our planet. We call it Mother Earth. We plant our flags on the mountains and draw borders on the maps. We act like the landlords of this rock. But 1978 changed that perspective for the people in power. They realized we aren't the landlords, we are the tenants. And we are renting space in the attic, terrified to go down to the basement. Think about the International Space Station. We have spent billions to keep a tin can floating in a vacuum where nothing can survive. We are desperate to live in space. Now ask yourself, why don't we have an international ocean station? Why don't we have permanent colonies on the continental shelf? It would be easier. It would be cheaper. The resources are right there. The answer is simple. In space, the vacuum tries to kill you, but it is indifferent. It doesn't hate you. It's just empty. The ocean is different. The ocean is not empty, and it is not indifferent. The files from the Seasat mission didn't just show creatures. They showed intelligence. They showed patterns of movement that suggest communication. These things aren't just swimming aimlessly, they are patrolling. There is a theory called the dark forest solution to the Fermi paradox. It says that the universe is silent because everyone is hiding. Because if you make noise, the predators will find you. We always thought the dark forest was out there, among the stars. But NASA found out that the dark forest is here. It is right off the coast of California. It is beneath the ice of the Arctic. We are making so much noise. Our sonar, our drilling, our shipping lanes. We are screaming into the void, banging on the ceiling of their world. And they are starting to knock back. Look at the strange phenomena reported by Navy pilots recently. The Tic Tac UFOs, the craft that defy the laws of aerodynamics. Everyone looks up and says, aliens. They think they are coming from another galaxy, but pay attention to the reports. These objects are frequently seen entering and exiting the water. They don't crash. They dive. They move through the water as easily as they move through the air. They aren't coming from Mars, they are coming from the deep. NASA stopped exploring because they realized that every time we shine a light into the trench, we are ringing a dinner bell. So they created a distraction. They gave us Star Wars, they gave us the space shuttle, they gave us beautiful pictures of nebulae and distant galaxies. They kept us looking up, dreaming of a future in the stars, because they didn't want us to see the nightmare rising from the tides. Ignorance is not just bliss. In this case, ignorance is a survival strategy. If you knew what was really down there, you would never go near the water again. You would look at the ocean and you wouldn't see a beach or a vacation spot. You would see a cage, and you would realize that we are not the ones on the outside looking in. We are the ones trapped on the dry land, huddled together, waiting for the water to rise. The next time you stand by the shore, listening to the rhythm of the waves, try to listen closely. That isn't just the sound of water crashing against sand. It is the sound of a barrier being tested. It is the sound of something massive, ancient, and hungry breathing against the glass. Keep your eyes on the stars, traveler. Keep dreaming of Mars, because down here, the water is deep, the pressure is building, and the landlords are coming home. Sleep well, and whatever you do, don't look into the abyss. End of recording.